It's time to look at Manchester United under Ruben Amorim, and we've discovered there's a player that quite possibly needs to go out of the door for things to function properly. We'll come back to that. Let's look at this 3-4-3. You've experienced a 3-4-3 under Antonio Conte. United fans have experienced a 3-5-2, I want to say, under Lou Van Gaal it was, or whatever it was a mess. And they didn't like it. I think you need a psychological spin to accept a 3-4-3.
You're right. You do need a bit of a reset because we know we like football. We enjoy football. When you see a team playing three at the back, you start to raise eyebrows, being, "Where's the deficiency? What are you?
You're covering something."
Exactly, mate. Exactly. But Ruben Amorim, let's give him credit first of all. Done a fantastic job at Sporting Lisbon. There's sporting fans crying at the fact that he's leaving. Did flirt with West Ham in the summer. He flew over to England and then had to apologise to Sporting, saying he made a big mistake in terms of handling the situation. So as a man that has been keeping an eye on Premier League jobs and waiting for the right one to appear, arguably the biggest job in the Premier League has appeared in terms of Manchester United. Obviously, their position doesn't represent the size of the club, and he's got a huge task on his hands. The 3-4-3 formation is going to be a very, very interesting one in terms of how they accommodate those players. You look at the players they invested in, though, in the summer, and it can work. You look at Lenny Euro, look at De Ligt, look at Martinez, who I think will be perfect in the back three. I think that works. It's out wide in the wing-back positions that they'll struggle with, because I always think that when you've got a manager that plays with a 3-4-3 or 3 at the back, the issue is the wing-backs. Do you put wingers there or do you put full-backs there? And somebody broke it down to me perfectly. They're like, wing-backs are either full-backs that want more or wingers that need less. And as a Chelsea fan, I saw that with Victor Moses. He was a winger that needed less, but as a wing back, he was perfect. So that's why I feel that Manchester United need to work out what they're doing, especially with this formation under Amorim. But I feel like they can be excited. He's a great manager. They've started off perfectly in the Portuguese league this year, Sporting, and in the Champions League, they look on fire as well. So Man United fans should get excited about this appointment.
I mean, I won't hide from the fact that when he was linked to Liverpool also in the summer, I was on my knees. I was desperate for him to come to Liverpool because I really like him as a manager. I like the way he speaks. I think that's another key area just to very quickly touch on is I think Ten Hag lost his job because of how he behaved in the media and how he didn't get people on side. Amorim is very likable, and I think people will like him. And he talks pretty straightforward, but he knows how to navigate people very well. And I think that'll also help with this squad because there's been a lot of disarray in this squad. There's a lot of players that people are constantly saying are upset. I think he handles a dressing room maybe better than Ten Hag. The problems for me come actually in that system we just spoke about. Because if you play a 3-4-3, picture this with us. I think Dallow's fine at wing back. I actually think he is probably what you just described. A fullback that needs more. So wing back suits him perfectly. The left side, I'm not sure Mazraoui needs more, and I'm not sure Garnacho needs less, and I'm not sure Rashford needs less. So that might be a problem. So they might have to look for someone there. That's not what we're going to talk about. Midfield 2. There's only 2 and not 3. Stick with us. That player I mentioned earlier is Bruno Fernandes. Because in a midfield pairing, I don't know if that works.
I agree with you, Nubaid. I feel like with Ruben Amorim, he's a man that's very, very familiar with Ugarte from his time at Sporting. So I think that he's a player that fits into that system. Kobbie Mainoo is one of Manchester United's starlets, so I think he starts as well. You've got those two in midfield as a double pivot. Bruno Fernandes is the odd man out there. If it wasn't for the fact that he was Portuguese, if it wasn't for the fact that Manchester United have just given him a new contract, if it wasn't for the fact that he's their captain, I would say that this is the perfect time for Manchester United to ease Bruno Fernandes out of this team and out of this squad. Because we said it on the show and I got slated for saying it, but you cannot win the biggest trophies with Bruno Fernandes as your fulcrum, as your centerpiece, as your chief creator. He's a great player. He's been a great servant for Manchester United. He scores goals, or he scored goals. He provided assists. But in terms of decision-making, you need somebody who's a bit more adept at making the right decisions to be that centerpiece. And in this formation that Ruben Amorim plays, unless you're going to play Bruno Fernandes as one of the wide forwards, which I don't think necessarily suits him at this stage of his career, there's no real place for him in this starting 11. And so if I'm Manchester United, if I'm Amorim, I'm biting the bullet. I'm looking at Bruno Fernandes in the eye and saying, your time as our main man has come to an end.
That is, I think for a lot of United fans, some United fans are going to love to hear that. Some are going to absolutely despise it because a lot of them saying he's our best player since Sir Alex Ferguson left, and I probably agree. But I do also think maybe this is United's sliding doors moment. You keep Bruno Fernandes and you suffer, you continue to suffer, and you let go of Bruno Fernandes and you become a new side. I think he might still have a home at the club if he's willing to maybe reduce how much he plays. Because I think also the minutes he's played have impacted his form as well. But in a midfield two, one sits in Ugarte, the other one's a box-to-box. Bruno Fernandes is not a box-to-box midfielder. I don't want him anywhere near the defensive box, and I don't want him too close to the opposition box either. I want him somewhere in the middle. So that will be a problem that they need to tackle. Another very quick area is Victor Gyökeres. I watched him when I did Soccer Saturday a while ago. When he was at Coventry 3 times, and I genuinely thought he was one of the best strikers I've ever seen live.
Oh, really?
And that was obviously championship level, so it's difficult to judge. He did really well at Sporting, and we don't know whether he's going to come to United or not. But Højlund is the one that I think he'll look to. Do you think Højlund could have this surge that United are expecting? Because he hasn't. He's sort of like flattered to deceive so far.
Yeah, they put a lot of emphasis on a young Scandinavian forward that had never played at this level before. He was okay at Atalanta, but he wasn't necessarily setting the world alight. And he came to Manchester United, and straight away they expected him to be the man to score them the goals. And he did score them goals in the Champions League. In the group stages, he was absolutely on fire. I think he scored 5 goals in the group phase. But in the league, he struggled, and obviously he struggled with fitness as well. But I can see the semblance of a striker that can get to the level that he needed to get to. He's still very young. I think he would benefit from being challenged by an actual out-and-out striker. Xerxes not that. We need to figure out what Xerxes is and how he fits into his team, whether he does actually fit into a Ruben Amorim team. But I do like Højlund. I do feel like he's got a place in this Manchester United side. It's just how he's utilised by Amorim. There's decisions to make, Nubaid. There's decisions to make. I'm excited to see how they make those decisions. But if you're going to stand on business and you're going to be that guy, you're going to have that transformative effect that Klopp had, that Arteta had, going to have to make tough decisions. Arteta rode Aubameyang to an FA Cup title, but then within the season, he was done. He wasn't in Arsenal's team anymore. He wasn't their captain anymore. I think that Amorim, looking at this Manchester United side, is going to have to make some tough decisions.